back at the Southampton Boat Show 2024, and we are very fortunate to be getting aboard Bolay, an amazing classic sailing yacht. Wonderful story, the Bolay Trust. We are fortunate to have David Critchley, who is one of the trustees, and he has been gracious enough to offer to take us through this very special event.
Hello, welcome to Yacht Bolay. Yacht Bolay is a one-off. She is one of a kind. She was built in Singapore in 1949 by a man called Robin Kilroy, who was employed at the naval base there, and conceived the idea of designing his own yacht and sailing her back to the UK. So she has lots of local features, which he borrowed from local yachts. She was built by Malaysian shipwrights out of Malaysian hardwood. They set sail from Singapore on the 18th of January 1950, crew of 5, including the skipper, Chinese cook, and 3 others. And they arrived back in Salcombe, Devon on the 1st of September 1950. A voyage of 15,000 miles done in just under 8 months.
That's astounding.
Lots of unusual features. He built her specifically for an ocean passage. He prioritized survivability and comfort, and particularly for the passage across the Indian Ocean with the trade winds behind us. The sail rig was optimized for that particular condition. So our main sail is supported on a double A-frame. It's on a gunter, which is winched up and down to give extra height to the A-frame. We have 2 forestays, 2 halyards, which enables a genoa to be spread out either side of the boat, and 2 effectively genoa poles to hold the boat out that way. There was a very primitive outboard motor, which consisted of a contraption that was lowered into the water over the stern of the boat, hopefully engaged with a transmission shaft, and then turned the propeller. Caused some certain amount of trouble, and we haven't replicated that. They came back to Salcombe, as I said, 1950. The boat's been used for sail training one way or another since. Then went out of touch, and in about 2009, the 2 nephews of the original designer said, "Where's our uncle's boat?" They found her, used as a houseboat in Mallorca, bought her, brought her back to the UK, and restored her with Heritage Lottery Fund money to be a sail training vessel. So that's where we are now. We are a charity, the Bolay Trust. Bolay is based in Haslar Marina, Gosport, and our focus is the original designer's motto, which is the Malaysian word boleh, which means yes, can do. So we promote a can-do attitude, and as a charity, what we're looking for particularly are people at a low point in their lives, people who could use being perked up, helped back onto their feet. So we work with children, we work with adult rehabilitation units and programs. We do about 90 days of that in the course of the year.
That's fantastic.
Okay, so if we look at the deck up here, there are a number of unusual features. If we start right at the bow, you'll see we have 2 forestays, 2 halyards. The idea of this is that we can have, if we want, a genoa out either side, effectively goose winging. Very useful if you're crossing the Indian Ocean with a trade wind behind you. We have 2 poles. You can see one of them there on the starboard side. They're like spinnaker poles. They hold out the genoas on either side. Moving slightly back, we have 2 unusual skylights in the deck here. These are actually the windscreens of Japanese Zero fighters, which could easily be bought for a couple of cigarettes in a scrapyard in Singapore in the 1950s. The mast format is very unusual. Effectively, we have 2 A-frames, and between them, we have a wire. Now, behind this wire is something we call the gunter, a vertical spar. And when we want to put the main up, first of all, we hoist the main to the top of the gunter. That's about right at the top of the 2 A-frames. But then we winch the gunter up, and that gives us an extra 50% height over the A-frames, and the main comes down to the level of the boom. So that's a bit unusual, but it has the advantage we don't need the mast to go all the way down to the keel through the saloon, more space in the saloon. And the second advantage is we don't need wire stays on the deck. So moving further aft, obviously we have a life raft. This is a requirement today, very clearly, and we have no difficulty in fitting that into the pattern. Further aft still, this is the cockpit from which the boat is steered. It's quite a small cockpit from a modern point of view, but if you're crossing the ocean, generally speaking, you've only got one person actually in the cockpit steering. You're not forever changing tack and all that. So there's our tiller, and you can sit up here, and the old outboard motor went down through there. Very open stern. The idea being, I think, that if you're pooped by a following wave, there's lots of space for the water to flow away without incommoding you. And then, of course, here is the companionway leading down into the saloon. Do you want to come down below?
Please. And we are now below in Bolay.
Okay. So here we are in the saloon on Bolay. And it's, well, one of the things is it's very comfortable. It was designed to be comfortable because if you're going to live somewhere for 8 months, you want comfort. We can sleep 8, bit tight. It's easier to sleep 4 or 5. The original configuration was very similar to this. The skipper slept aft, the crew slept here, and these side units fold down to create bunks. So you could sleep 4 across here. There was a Chinese cook. He slept forward in the forepeak there, had a little bicycle seat here and stoves up there, and he cooked there. Now, in those days, outboard motors were barely thought of, and they had a plan for something like an outboard motor. That is to say, there was an engine with a transmission shaft coming out of the stern of the boat, but when they wanted power, they lifted a propeller assembly off the stern of the boat, engaged it with a transmission shaft, and then hopefully the propeller turned. Well, when we redesigned the boat, we replanned it in 2009 for the restoration, we decided not to reproduce that historic feature. So what we have here in the center of the boat is a diesel generator, a Fisher Panda generator, excellent machine. It generates 3 electric circuits. There's a domestic circuit for the kettle, the microwave, and the induction hob. There's a 12-volt circuit for navigation lights and things like that. And crucially, there is a 72-volt circuit which charges a bank of batteries underneath the skipper's bunk, and they power 2 electric motors. So we are actually a diesel-electric boat.
That's astounding.
Those motors, they're very quiet, but the great thing is we do not have a mechanical connection between the power unit and the propellers. So that gives us more scope to redesign the saloon. I said that we restored the boat. The boat is now a charity. We specialize in people who are at a low point in their lives and need perking up. We work with schools, we work with service groups, we take people out for a day or for a week, and much more often than not, almost always, they come back enthused, reinvigorated, with a renewed sense of purpose. And this is what we exist for. It makes us terribly proud to be able to achieve this. So we have to keep Bolay operational throughout the year, and that costs us between £80,000 and £100,000 per year. So we have to raise that money. We raise it partly by applying for grants, partly by chartering Bolay, and partly by asking members of the public to help us out. It works out, it sounds a lot of money, but it works out at £130 per person per day, which is actually very reasonable. So we hope that you will think we're doing a good thing, you will join us in supporting it, and that Bolay will continue to provide this service in future years. This, if you want it, is a chart showing the 1950 route. Starting obviously in Singapore over there and ending up here.
15,000 miles and how many days?
Just under 8 months. For the restoration, we made a point of using young apprentices as much as possible so that they could be given a chance to learn traditional boatcraft skills and to hand those skills on to the next generation. And the restoration was generously funded by the Heritage Lottery Fund. So we have a website, www.boletproject.com. You can go to the website, you can learn more about us, you can give through the website, and we hope that you will think we're doing a good thing, you will join us in supporting it, and that Bolet will continue to provide this service in future years.
Well, absolutely outstanding, David. Thank you so much for taking the time and taking us through Bolet, explaining a little bit more about the trust. And we will have links to the website. We'll have links to your contact description or contact information. Leave comments for David. Leave comments for us. Let us know what you think. And definitely you'll be hearing more about Bolet and the project.